Hi. In the past years, I've made a number of attempts at recreating slash guitar tone on Appetite for Destruction. It's a really hard tone because it's first off you usually hear it paired with Izzy's tone, so it's hard to identify exactly what it is on its own. But having listened to a bunch of isolation tracks and so on, I've tried to recreate it, and I've gotten help from Daniel Forsberg and Justin Percy and other guys. Daniel has actually modded the amps that I have used in these 8. It is actually 8 attempts I've done at Slash's tone. I talked to Daniel yesterday and asked him if he could give us some insight into his experiences of the Slash tone and vintage high gain, and he was kind enough to agree to make a comment here. So do check that out in the comment section. First, I'll play the 8 attempts, and I'm going to list the gear I used, and at the end, I'm also going to comment on each of those sections, what I did right and what I did very wrong. All right, let's go. right, let's start with attempt 1. I'm using the 77 super bass here, /used to 77 super lead. Mine is converted to number 39, and that's what Slash had in the pre-production. Actually, on the recording of the actual album, he used number 36. 39 is the original, designed by Tim Cresswell. And I think Frank Levi did 36, which is a copy of 39. This 39 is actually it has some of the features of the 36 as well. And I'm not sure 36 is completely known here. Daniel Forsberg helped me implement this 39 Fusion 36 with the help of Justin Percy. Here we're using a 4x12 cab as Slash did. We're using vintage or Marshall vintage speaker here, or miking 2 of them here, or more correctly, we're miking one Marshall vintage and one G1265. Slash used G1280 with lead cones on the album. So this G1265 is pretty close to that. It's like the G1280 with lead cones that Slash used, but with a, not as heavy magnet. So the vintage, the G1265 here provides, it's a bit softer and compresses a bit more than the speaker that Slash used. On the other hand, the vintage 30 is harder than the G1280, at least to me. I actually prefer vintage 30 to G1280, at least when you showcase it, because I think both the lead cone and bass cone of G1280 can be a bit boxy sounding, but maybe that is what's needed. It's can be quite a dense mix with 2 guitars and bass and vocals and all that. And the playing is pretty busy at times as well. So maybe that's why G1280 works better, because he undoubtedly uses G1280 lead cones on the album. And here you can see the difference between 34, which he used on later albums like User Illusion and so on, compared to 39. I think 39 has the dynamics, that the AFD tone is famous for. But showcased here, I kind of prefer the 34 tone actually. And here I'm actually using the Alnico 2 Pro pickup that Slash used in his Gibson Les Paul copy. It was actually a copy that he used. A very well-made copy, but a copy nonetheless, on the AFD album. Here I'm using a room mic also, which I don't think Slash uses that much room sound. I think it's very carefully placed close mics instead. So that takes it away from his tone, and it sounds more 70s than the 80s tone that he usually has. And here, in this the fourth attempt, I think basically the most of the sound chain here is correct. The 4x12 here has the bass cones in the G1280s, and he had the lead cones. The lead cones are even more MIDI, and not as much top end, because they're more MIDI, so it obscures the very top end, and that may be why this may sound a bit harsh. It can also be that there is some slight phase cancellation between these two mics. And here I'm not using a room mic, so you get that a more intense tone here. I'm using an SM57 and a PL6 here. I think they used two SM57, as I've read, and no guarantees there. So here we have the 34 again. That's not what he used on Appetite for Destruction, so this is more like some, if any, a latter tone of Slash. I think it sounds really good, but I think the greenbacks are a bit too chunky for Slash's style. Not fast enough. And also here I'm using a room mic, which I shouldn't, or at least play in a more controlled room then, because things need to be fast with Slash, I think. Here in attempt 6, I'm combining G1280 and Vinci 30. When I isolate the G1280 here, I think it comes pretty close to the Slash tone. But here I've also made the mistake to kind of sound like I usually do with the bigger sound, with room sound and so on. But that becomes too slow. But at least I'm having the mics all the way up at the grill, which I don't think I have in all cases here. In attempt 7, that's the only clip where I'm using a stock amp that hasn't been modded for higher gain. So as you can see, I'm boosting the mids here, and although this tone also is not fast enough, I think it sounds really good, and it kind of takes away some of that chunkiness of the greenbacks, so it sounds a bit more modern or 80s like. But too much room mic here as well for Slash's tone. In attempt 8, I'm investigating whether you could combine JBL D120F with a bunch of speakers and see if that would, that one goes higher, the JBL. So you wouldn't need to have an amp that has an increased top end like the S.I.R Studio amps. You could use some other amp instead and with high gain and instead use the D120F like Van Halen did to get the top end. I think I think that works pretty well. I think it's not dynamic enough in the right way for me. And here I don't even in most clips here I've put the close mic up front, dead center basically. Here it's backed off 1 feet, pointing at the peripheral parts of the speakers. So it's this tone is way too slow. All right, that's it. Now I want to know your experiences and what you thought about this. Were there tones that you liked, and were there tones that you think should be improved? All right, cheers.